Hey, good morning. We're back at the Pink House, and today we're going to talk about lighting because we got ceiling fans that look like that. Or how about this ceiling fan where no bulbs and you can't see it, but let me see if I can get up there and show you. Oh, there it is. So the previous owner just had a cord that they had tacked across the ceiling and they plugged in so they could run this ceiling fan. So there, as far as I know, there is no electricity up there. We're gonna have to solve that problem. And then we have this dark kitchen. That's the only light in this whole kitchen. One over the sink and one way over here on this side for some reason. So we're gonna solve that problem. And then while we're solving that problem, hopefully we'll be able to figure out this switch turns both those lights on. And I'd like it so that the kitchen is on one switch and the dining room fan is on another switch. And the last one we're going to work on is we're going to change out this fixture here in the master closet. And this is a step in a larger project. I'll actually have a video about this whole master closet coming up soon. But we're going to get started with this one. Okay, so before I get started, remember, if you're working with electricity and you're not comfortable, hire a licensed electrician or find a friend who knows what they're doing. And also, when working with electricity, always turn off the breaker. The biggest challenge about working on lights is you're working in the dark. Definitely some weird looking wiring up in that box. So I'm not going to really understand or actually explain what's going on in this box because there's some blacks to some whites and some whites to some blacks and whatever. This is an older home, 1978. But in general, you've got three wires coming out of the box. You got a ground, a black, and they have two whites twisted together, but that doesn't matter. It's a white. So when you change out a light fixture, it's just a matter of black to black, white to white, green to ground, or bare to ground. And then just screw it right back to the box. Simple. For a homeowner, this is probably one of the easiest electrical projects you can do is changing out a light fixture. All right, so apologize for the lighting again. I'm working in the dark. Here's the light fixture I picked up. I picked this up from Home Depot. And it's got a glass shade on it. It's a little bit bougie, kind of dress up this closet a little bit for her. Let's get this mounted, get this installed. We'll hang the light. Well, that was a problem I created for myself by cutting those studs. But I got it on there. It's mounted up. Let's get some light bulbs in there and put the shade on there and see how it looks. Ta-da! Well, that's the first project done, and it came out really good. I think she's going to be happy when she comes home. Let's move to the next one. All right, so here's the second task. we're going to take this fan down, and I don't know what's going on. I think this was the center of the room, and then they just put a fan in instead of getting some kind of support. They just moved it over and screwed it in, because in the ceilings, this is all structure right here. So we're going to have to figure that out too. Let's go ahead and yank this thing down. So here's a lesson on how not to do things. So yeah, they definitely moved the fan over and just screwed it into the beam here. But instead of running this wire through maybe a hole right there, they just yanked it through the side of the drywall there and hooked it underneath the bonnet or the escutcheon of the fan. But the wire comes from that direction. That's the funny part. So we're going to have to figure this one out. I think we're going to go get a medallion and probably mount it between these two holes and then put a bracket right there. Okay, so the fixture we're putting in here is super light. I don't need a fan rated bracket anymore. And so I got this old workbox, and I'm going to try to make it happen around here, and then we're going to have to patch this ceiling and stuff in the future. But let's go ahead and put this in. And for those who care, that's my granddaughter in the background. Okay, again, just like any other lamp, black to black, white to white, ground to green or copper. Works great. Fans on, it's really quiet. This is actually at full blast right now at 6. Comes with a remote control, has a timer, 1 hour, 2 hour, has a night sleep mode. You can change the fan direction for winter and summer. What else does it have? We can change the color of the light to match your lighting scheme in your house. Some people like it a little warmer. Some people like a little brighter. My daughter-in-law likes a little brighter. And then we can dim it down as well, you know, just to set some mood light up. Back up here. And then we have an all-on, all-off switch. So if you just want to shut everything off, just push that button. Or just a fan-off switch just to turn the fan off. Really easy. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, but it's kind of the ad on Amazon makes it look much bigger, and then I was reading the descriptions and it seemed like it was going to be much smaller, and then when I put it up, it's about almost 2 feet in diameter, so it's a pretty good size, and it's really quiet. The fan's been on the whole time we've been talking here, so as you can see, and now the fan's off. Hey, okay, we're back. Another day, another work. Excuse me. So we're kind of going from easy to hard, okay? Living room, or excuse me, closet light, dining room light, trying to solve what was going to be going on up here. Now we're going to be dealing with the kitchen. And the challenge we have today is what's up inside, right there, that junction box, and how it wires from there over to this light we put in yesterday. And then switch box down there. So the ultimate goal is to put 2 switches right there on the wall, split the circuit right there, and then install can lighting in the ceiling in this kitchen. Let's get started. All right, so I have definitely ascertained that that light comes through this junction. I don't know which wire is which yet, but that's the next step. I'm gonna undo these and troubleshoot that. All right, so I figured it out. This is very typical of a 1970s house where they bring the power into the fixture. So if you look at these twisted pair lines, that's the electricity coming into the box, and then it goes across the ceiling to this box where you see this light's on right now. And then what they do is they put a switch leg. So this white and this black, all it does is interrupt the power between the fixture and the power, and they use white as a return. A good electrician will wrap that white in black tape so you know it's a hot wire, and then what happens is, so black comes into this black, goes down to the switch right here, comes out of the switch on the white, goes up on the white, and then they connect that white to the black wire of the fixture so that it completes the circuit. Now, the problem with that is normally they bring the power, one power wire into a box, and then you can split it for multiple switches, which is what I want to do. So what I think I'm going to do is use this switch leg box, a switch leg line here, connect it back to these hots, put that back in that junction box, and then I'm also going to probably, and this is pretty intense, I'm going to take that cabinet down so that it can cut a hole in the ceiling right there, so I can access the top of that wall and drop 2 new power wires down to this junction and put a 2-gang box for a switch for the dining room light and a switch for the kitchen lights. Okay, so you're not going to believe what comes through this junction box in the ceiling. So electricity comes in from the panel. I think it's a 15 amp breaker, maybe a 20 amp breaker, probably a 20 amp breaker. It powers a lighting circuit that is that light, the light in that room, all of these outlets along this wall, not the stove, but the microwave, all of the outlets on this wall, plus the garbage disposal and the dishwasher, not the refrigerator. And then this light up here. The outlets in this room, and all the rooms down this side are on a completely different circuit. That's crazy. Hey, okay, it's been a couple of hours. Lights are still off. As you can see, we've marked out for where we're going to put can lights. But we're all done over here. We've got a 2 switch here, one for the dining room and one for the kitchen now. And what we ended up doing is I pulled power from this plug because this is actually labeled kitchen circuit, and this is the only outlet that's on the kitchen circuit. So now this circuit has this plug, and then it powers both the can lights in the kitchen and that new light we put in the dining room. And then the rest of those lights and all that other stuff I talked about earlier are now on their own circuit. I pulled a bunch of wire to get them all wired up safely where I had access to junction boxes and stuff like that. But that was about 2.5 hours worth of work. So what we're going to do today is we're going to finish putting these can lights in. I cannot even believe how much of a difference these lights have made in this room. Holy, it is amazing. And our placement was perfect for what we needed. Task lighting all the way around the room. Okay, that's the end of day 2 on the lighting project. Day 3, replacing that light. And now I've been added a new one. She wants a light right there. So we're back again for another attempt at this. And I'm going to take out this ceiling fan and then we're going to see what's going on from there. So I was right. They just ran an extension cord up through the bonnet and hooked it up to the motor. And then they ran it along the wall or whatever and probably down to this switched outlet over here. So this is just screwed to the ceiling. A ceiling fan was installed there. Day 3 of the electrical project at the pink house. Hopefully the last day, but we'll see. So what we're going to do today is we're going to finish the electrical here in the living room. As you can see, I've already gotten started. We're going to pull power from this switch box right here. This is the porch light and the wall power for a table lamp. Those are going to stay the same. We're just going to add 2 more switches using this 4-gang old work box. We're going to put a light up here, and then we're going to put another light over here that kind of replaces where that ceiling fan was that you saw that was just bolted to the ceiling and run with an extension cord. But we're going to actually put a recessed old work box in the ceiling here and one over there for this entryway light. Fortunately for us, there's a couple of holes in the ceiling that were left by the previous owner that we'll be able to cut through the vapor barrier, run some wiring into the top of this wall, and then we'll patch that up. All right, let's get started. Go. Okay, so we're safe power here. Now the cool part, if you remember in my earlier videos, I used these Decora Edge from Leviton. Now the cool part about these is I just have to flip these toggles and these switches come right out. That's so easy for maintenance or if you have to replace a switch. So what we need to do now is sort this mess out, but I need to put a 4-gang here, so I'm going to cut that open. Okay, so I got that box out of there and I've identified all these wires. Here's my switch plug leg for over there. So there's a black wire for the hot plug and a red wire for the switch plug. This is my power coming in. And then this is the porch light, which is on the other side of this wall right here. And you'll notice they have blocking. There's one up here as well. And that was to hold that 2-gang box in between because there's no wood in here. It's a stud over here in the corner and a stud next to the door. So this distance is like right at the limit of my old work box. So I'll probably end up having to put screws back in the face of the old work box to make sure it stays. The other thing you're going to notice, well, hey Scott, that doesn't look very centered. Well, once we get the door trimming and everything, this will be centered in that opening. And that's the kind of forethought you need to think when you're installing something. Because as you go through processes, it would be nothing worse than getting this all put together and then it looks like the switches are too close to the door. So we thought that through. I know I'm using a 2.5-inch molding and I centered that opening between the corner beading and what will future be the door trim. So now that we've got that opened up, Trevor and I are going to go ahead and pull the wires for that hole there. And then we're going to pull them just to these access points, that one there and then that one there from way over here. And then once we get that done, we'll reach up in the hole over here and try to get into the top of the wall where the wires are coming through and drop those down into that switch box. Okay, so I ran into a bit of a hiccup. If you go up in this hole, the roof is like right there. You can't get through anywhere here. It's just so close, and there's lumber like right here, right along here, that blocks this. But from over here, because it's 2 feet further in, I can reach all the way over to here, and then obviously it's clear out to this opening. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this wire across to this hole, drop the excess out, and then once I wire this one, we'll pull both wires across and then down this wall into here. And you're like, well, what's that? Well, that's where the doorbell is. So that's just an empty junction box right now with the 20-volt transformer in it. So that's the plan. Pull a wire from this one over to this one, drop the excess down, pull a wire from here over to this one for that light, and then pull the 2 ends down this wall into that junction. So I could have bored you with a time lapse, but that would have sucked. So we were able to get this wire to that hole. We originally tried to come across to this hole, and I actually ended up losing one of my wire snakes in the ceiling up here somewhere. But we were able to get to this point, actually go up here and come across to this hole. So we got that wire in there. Now we're having a hard time getting to the top of this wall. I originally thought I could pull the paneling open, but these exterior panels, they're glued to the wall, so that didn't work for me. I did pull the doorbell transformer out of there, and I've got this. This is one of those long wall drills, and I've drilled this up, and it's up through the top plate. But what we're having a problem with is none of us, our arm isn't long enough to reach from this hole over to roughly, as you can see, probably right about there. But we're going to keep trying. Okay, so we finally got that in there, got that patched up. What we need to do now is seal those vapor barriers back up, get the junction boxes up in there, and down in there, and over in there, and we'll move on to the next. Well, that's a wrap for this project. Each task got progressively harder and really tested me towards the end there. But we were able to overcome and deal with some of the challenges you face when you're working on a modular home. Again, when working with electricity, remember, if you're not comfortable with that, get a licensed professional. If I've done anything in this video or any of my other videos that you found helpful, consider joining my channel, joining Patreon, or giving me a super thanks. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, put those down below. Speaking of comments, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you do, hit that bell for notifications. I'd like to thank Axe Fixer for providing these light fixtures and making this video possible. I'll have a link to their products and all the products I used in this video down in the description. I've got some videos over here you may be interested in. Subscribe button's right down here. Thanks for watching. Dad it yourself.